By the time I realized I was being kidnapped, it was already too late to do anything dignified about it, which was honestly rude. One moment I was walking down a dim street, mentally arguing with myself about whether instant noodles counted as dinner for the third night in a row, and the next, hands grabbed me from behind, rough and efficient, like they'd rehearsed this exact move on other unfortunate souls. I opened my mouth to scream. A cloth pressed over my face, something sharp and chemical flooded my senses, and then darkness. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was the light. Too bright, white, unforgiving, the kind of light that made you question every life decision you'd ever made, including the shoes you wore that morning. The second thing I noticed was the chair, metal, cold, uncomfortable in a way that felt intentional. The third thing, my hands were tied. "Oh," I muttered hoarsely. "So it's one of those days." My wrists were bound behind the chair with thick zip ties, tight enough to hurt but not enough to cut circulation. Professional. I shifted, testing them. No give. Fantastic. I squinted against the light, blinking until my vision adjusted. The room was large, concrete walls, no windows. A warehouse, probably underground or heavily reinforced. Industrial, clean, empty, except for me and the chair. No decorations, no personality, which told me everything I needed to know. Right, I sighed. Villain basement. Did I got transmigrated into a romance book? Don't be jealous. Yeah, I am talking to you delusional, dark romance book girlies. Back to the present, I rolled my shoulders as much as the restraints allowed, trying to loosen the stiffness creeping into my muscles. My head throbbed faintly, a dull ache behind my eyes. Kidnapped, tied up, probably interrogated. My fear came late, like an intern who showed up after the meeting already started. Instead, what bubbled up first was irritation. Because honestly, I left the house once. Once. And this was what happened. Fantastic. I leave the house once, and now I'm in a villain basement. I am so attractive. This is why I hate socializing. I don't want people to fall for me. Footsteps echoed outside the room. I straightened instinctively, lifting my head. 2 men entered. Big, broad, dressed in black. No insignia, but the way they moved, alert, controlled, screamed trained muscle. Mafia, most likely. Or at least the discount brand version. One of them glanced at me like I was a bug on the floor. The other said nothing. They didn't ask questions. They didn't threaten me. They simply turned and left, and locked the door behind them. I stared after them, waiting. Seconds passed, then minutes, then longer. No food, no water, no interrogation. Just the light, the chair, and the slow realization that this was intentional. "Oh," I murmured again, dryly. "We're doing that." Time became strange. I don't know how long I was left there. Hours, at least. My throat dried out first. My tongue felt thick, like cotton stuffed in my mouth. My stomach cramped, sharp hunger twisting low in my gut. They were starving me. Bold strategy. Starving the innocent. Truly revolutionary interrogation tactics. I slumped slightly in the chair, letting my head tilt forward before forcing myself upright again. Slouching made it worse. Everything hurt worse. My legs went numb, then prickled painfully as blood tried to return. My shoulders burned, my wrists ached. I breathed slowly, counting in my head, grounding myself. They wanted me weak. Fine. I could be weak, but I wasn't going to panic. Panic was for people who still believed screaming helped. I'd learned early that it didn't. At some point, much later, I realized I wasn't alone. Not physically, but there was a hum. Soft, almost imperceptible. A camera. I lifted my gaze slowly, scanning the ceiling. There. A small black lens angled directly at me. "Oh," I said softly, lips curling. "You're watching." No response, obviously. Still, I tilted my head, giving the camera my best tired smile. "Just so you know," I added, If this is foreplay, you're doing it wrong. Where is a handsome alpha to rescue me? Nothing. Rude. I closed my eyes, conserving energy. If they were watching, they were waiting, which meant whoever was in charge hadn't decided what to do with me yet. That thought should have scared me. Instead, it annoyed me. Pick a crime and commit to it. Eventually, the door opened again. Light shifted. Footsteps. Slower this time. Heavier. The air changed. I didn't need to see him to know. Alpha. Every Omega knew that feeling. The pressure. The way the air seemed to bow inward, like reality itself straightened its spine in deference. I lifted my head as he entered the room. Tall. That was my first clear thought. Annoyingly tall. Broad shoulders beneath a tailored black coat, sharp lines, deliberate movements. His presence filled the space, crowding the light, the walls, my lungs. Cold eyes, steel gray, calculating, dangerous, terrifying, hot. Awe. If the villain is this hot, then please kidnap me. I clearly needed this personality adjustment. He stopped a few feet in front of me, gaze sweeping over my bound form with clinical detachment. Not hunger, not lust, assessment. He looked like a man deciding whether something was worth breaking or discarding. I'll ask once, he said, voice low, controlled. Smooth, like a blade sliding free of its sheath. Who do you work for? Straight to the point. I swallowed, my throat burning. A convenience store, I answered honestly. Silence. His brow furrowed, just slightly. He looked disappointed. He looks disappointed. Sorry, my criminal empire isn't impressive. You expect me to believe that? He said flatly. I do, actually, I replied. Because it's true. He took a step closer, then another. The pressure intensified, alpha dominance rolling off him in waves. My Omega instincts stirred uneasily, bristling, alert. He studied my face, searching for cracks. I met his gaze steadily. I was hungry, dehydrated, exhausted. But I wasn't lying. That mattered. He reached out suddenly. I flinched instinctively as his hand shoved me back into the chair when I tried to shift forward, the metal scraping loudly against the floor. Pain shot through my shoulders. I hissed softly, breath stuttering. If he wanted my attention, I thought bitterly, he could have just said hi like a normal criminal. His fingers curled under my chin, rough and unyielding, forcing my face up until our eyes locked. Up close he smelled God. Pine. Cold air. Iron. Something dark and sharp beneath it all. My breath caught. Something twisted painfully in my chest. Not fear. Not exactly. Something else. His pupils flared for half a second. Just a fraction. Then his jaw tightened. He froze. I felt it. That strange electric pull snapping tight between us. Invisible but undeniable. His scent hit me harder, my Omega instinct screaming, curling inward like they wanted to hide and lean forward at the same time. He thought, why does he smell like that? No, that's not possible. His grip tightened abruptly like he was angry at the thought itself. He released me with a sharp shove, stepping back as though burned. Oh, that look. That's not liar face. That's why do I suddenly feel weird face. His eyes hardened, expression darkening. I don't believe you, he said coldly. Of course you don't. He turned sharply toward the door. Begin interrogation, he ordered. My stomach dropped. Ah yes, the classic wrong place, wrong Omega starter pack. The door slammed shut behind him, leaving me alone again in the blinding light, wrists aching, throat dry, heart pounding. Not with fear this time, but with something far more dangerous. Because for one terrifying second, the Alpha had looked at me like he recognized something, and I had felt it too, which meant this nightmare was only just beginning. Hunger is a strange thing. People think it's dramatic, your stomach growling loudly, your body collapsing instantly, visions of food dancing in front of your eyes like some cartoon. That's not how it works. Hunger is quiet. It creeps. It starts as a dull ache, then becomes a persistent throb, like your body tapping you on the shoulder every few minutes, politely at first. Hey, we should eat. Then it stops being polite. By the time the door opened again, my mouth felt like sandpaper, and my head was floating somewhere just above my body, disconnected and light. I didn't bother lifting my head. Footsteps entered. Familiar ones, heavy, controlled. Alpha, Orion. I could feel him before I saw him. The air thickened, pressure pressing down on my chest, my Omega instincts stirring weakly like they'd been half-starved too. Which, rude. He stopped in front of me. I forced my eyes open slowly. Bad idea. The light stabbed straight through my skull, and I hissed softly, blinking until the room steadied. He was watching me. Not with anger this time, with calculation. You haven't eaten, he said. Not a question. I swallowed, throat burning. Very observant. His jaw tightened. You'll eat when you answer my questions. I laughed. It came out hoarse and broken, more breath than sound. Amazing, I muttered. I'm starving and boring. Pick a struggle. He ignored the comment. Typical alpha behavior. Who sent you? He asked again. No one. What were you delivering? Groceries. Silence. I tilted my head slightly, peering up at him through heavy lashes. Unless the Mafia has suddenly decided milk and instant noodles are contraband, I added. I think we can rule out espionage. His gaze sharpened. He stepped closer, boots echoing against concrete. Lies don't change with repetition, he said. Neither does the truth, I replied weakly. My head swam as I spoke. The room tilted subtly, like I was on a boat instead of a chair in a criminal basement. I clenched my jaw, fighting the wave of dizziness. Do not pass out. Passing out is embarrassing. Orion crouched slightly so we were eye level. His scent washed over me again. Pine, iron, something dangerously steady beneath it. My Omega instincts reacted immediately, curling inward, seeking warmth and safety from the worst possible source. I hated that. Look at me, he said. I was, mostly. The edges of my vision were starting to blur, dark spots flickering like dying stars. I am, I murmured, though I'd appreciate it if the room would stop spinning. His eyes flicked to my face, then my lips, then my throat. Something unreadable crossed his expression. You're not lying, he said slowly. My heart skipped, progress. Then he straightened abruptly, cold returning like a slammed door. But that doesn't mean you're innocent. Of course it doesn't. He turned away. Leave him, he ordered the guards behind him. No food. The door shut, again. I sagged against the chair, breath coming shallow. Well, that went nowhere. Time passed. Again. I wasn't sure how long. Minutes bled into hours, or maybe the other way around. My body felt heavy now, like gravity had doubled without warning. Every movement took effort. I focused on breathing. In, out. At some point, I realized my head was drooping forward. I tried to lift it. My arms trembled. Oh, that's new. The room tilted sharply, and before I could brace myself, the world went sideways. The chair scraped loudly as I slumped, my weight pulling against the restraints. I hit the floor hard. Pain exploded through my shoulder as it struck concrete, sharp and immediate, knocking the breath from my lungs. I gasped, vision flashing white. Well, this is undignified. Footsteps rushed in. Voices, hands grabbed my arms, hauling me up roughly. Careful! Someone started. Up! Orion snapped. They yanked me upright far too fast. My head spun violently, nausea rolling through me. I barely registered being dragged before my back slammed against the wall. My shoulder screamed in protest. I cried out despite myself, teeth gritting as pain lanced through muscle and bone. Great. I always wanted a hot villain to give me a concussion. Orion was suddenly there, looming close, his hand braced beside my head against the wall. Enough, he growled at the guards. They froze. He looked down at me, eyes blazing, not with satisfaction, with something sharp and furious. Not at me, at them, at himself, at the situation. His gaze dropped to my shoulder. The fabric of my shirt was torn slightly, skin beneath already darkening with a spreading bruise. I felt it then. The bond, not fully, just a pull. A painful, twisting ache low in my chest, like something inside me was reaching out and being yanked back. Orion inhaled sharply. His nostrils flared. My scent spiked. Damn it. My Omega instincts reacted before I could stop them, fear and pain blending into something vulnerable and raw. The air thickened instantly. Orion's eyes darkened. He swore under his breath. "Get out!" he snapped. The guards hesitated. "Now!" They left. The door slammed shut. Silence fell heavy and suffocating. I slumped slightly, breath ragged, shoulder throbbing in time with my pulse. Orion stared at me for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small metal container. Ointment. I stared at it, then at him, then back at the ointment. This is it. I die by ointment. What a strange way to go. Is this a new way to poison? I don't want to die yet. I haven't even dated yet. My Prince Charming will be left alone in this world. He stepped closer. I tensed automatically, pressing back against the wall. "What are you doing?" I asked hoarsely. His gaze flicked to my face. "You're injured." "And whose fault is that?" I shot back weakly. Something tightened in his expression. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached out, slowly, deliberately. His fingers brushed my shoulder, careful despite their size. I flinched anyway. He paused immediately. For the first time since I'd met him, he hesitated. "I won't hurt you," he said. The words hit strangely, soft, almost gentle. My laugh came out shaky. "Bit late for that, don't you think?" He ignored the comment again, unscrewing the lid of the ointment. The sharp, medicinal scent cut through the air. He dipped 2 fingers in and pressed them to my bruised shoulder. The touch was firm but careful, spreading cool relief across burning skin. I sucked in a sharp breath. Not from pain, from the way my body reacted. God. My Omega instincts surged, traitorous and alive, leaning into the contact despite everything. Orion stiffened. His jaw clenched. His fingers stilled for a fraction of a second. Then resumed. Slower now. More deliberate. His thumb brushed the edge of the bruise. My breath hitched. He noticed. His eyes flicked to my face. Dark. Searching. "Why does it hurt me?" he murmured, almost to himself. "To see you hurt." I froze. "What?" He shook his head slightly, as if annoyed by his own thoughts. "This makes no sense," he muttered. "You're telling me." His hand lingered longer than necessary, warmth bleeding through the thin fabric of my shirt. My heart pounded loudly in my ears. "You shouldn't smell like this," he said quietly. "I don't control my scent," I snapped. "If I did, trust me, this wouldn't be happening." His lips twitched, just barely. Was that a smile? No. Impossible. He finished applying the ointment and pulled his hand back abruptly, as though realizing how close he was. The space between us felt suddenly enormous. "I won't starve you again," he said. I blinked. "That's reassuring," I replied cautiously. "Low bar, but appreciated." He met my gaze, eyes intense. "You don't belong on the floor," he added. My heart skipped stupidly. Romantic lines from a Mafia alpha, while I'm chained in a warehouse. Fantastic. "And where do I belong?" I asked before I could stop myself. His gaze lingered on me for a heartbeat too long. "Safe," he said. Then he turned and walked out. The door closed behind him with a solid click. I sagged against the wall, breath shaking. Hunger still gnawed at me. Fear still lingered. But something else had settled beneath it all. Something dangerous. Because for the first time since I'd been dragged into this nightmare, the Alpha hadn't looked at me like a suspect. He'd looked at me like a mistake he didn't know how to undo. And that scared me far more than hunger ever could. I woke up convinced I had died. Not because of pain I could handle, but because the first thing I smelled wasn't cold concrete, fear, or Orion's annoyingly perfect Alpha scent. It was soup, actual soup, warm, savory, real. I cracked one eye open cautiously. The ceiling was the same, industrial, dull, slightly cracked, so not heaven. Pity. But beside the chair, on a small metal table that definitely hadn't been there before, sat a bowl of steaming soup, a glass of water, and something that looked suspiciously like bread. I stared at it, then stared some more, then blinked slowly, like the food might disappear if I acknowledged it too quickly. Sure. The food fairy broke in. I shifted carefully. My shoulder protested, still sore but less sharp than before. Someone had cleaned the dried blood from my sleeve. Someone had even loosened the restraints enough that my wrists weren't screaming anymore. I swallowed. Oh? We're doing concerned criminal now? Character development already? I licked my dry lips and leaned forward cautiously, sniffing the soup. It smelled incredible. I hated that my first instinct was to inhale it like a feral animal. Easy, I muttered to myself. This is how they get you. Step 1, starve. Step 2, soup. Step 3, emotional devastation. Still. I drank the water first, slowly. My throat burned at the first swallow, but relief followed immediately, spreading through my chest. God. Water shouldn't taste that good. I was halfway through the soup, trying and failing to eat with dignity while still chained, when footsteps echoed again. I stiffened. Alpha. I didn't need to look, but I did anyway. Orion entered the room with the same controlled presence as always, coat immaculate, expression unreadable. His gaze dropped immediately to the table, then to me, then back to the bowl. You're awake, he said. Unfortunately, I replied. I was hoping this was all a vivid stress dream. He ignored the comment, again. Eat, he ordered. I lifted my spoon pointedly. Already doing that. His eyes narrowed slightly, but he said nothing. I swallowed another mouthful, then glanced at him. Did you order this? No. I paused mid-bite, slowly lowered the spoon, looked at him, then at the soup, then back at him. So, I said carefully, either someone broke into your highly secure Mafia torture warehouse to feed me soup, or you're lying. His jaw tightened. I didn't order it, he repeated. I hummed. Interesting, because the guards didn't exactly seem like the nurturing type. Silence. He turned slightly, adjusting his gloves. You needed sustenance, he said finally. That sounds suspiciously like a reason. His eyes flicked to mine. Don't read into it. Oh, I absolutely will. I finished the soup, licking the spoon clean without shame. Hunger made you honest. And honestly, if this was a trick, it was a good one. When I was done, Orion took the bowl without comment and set it aside. Then he stepped closer. Too close. He reached out. I stiffened instantly. Whoa, I said. Personal space. We talked about this. We did not, he replied. He placed the back of his hand against my forehead. Cool skin against overheated flesh. I sucked in a breath. Sir? You cannot torture someone and then fondle them. There are rules, his brow furrowed. You're warm. Well, I said weakly, I've had a stressful few days. His hand lingered. Too long. My Omega instinct stirred again, traitorous and annoying, curling toward the warmth instinctively. No. Even if he is hot, you cannot fall for a Mafia boss. This is how people end up in documentaries. He seemed to realize what he was doing at the same moment I did. His hand dropped abruptly. The air between us crackled. "I ordered a medic," he said stiffly. I blinked. "You... what?" "They examined you," he continued. "Your shoulder is bruised. No fracture." "Oh," I said faintly. "That's... good." He nodded once, like this settled something important. Then he stood there. Just stood there. Watching me. "You're staring," I pointed out. He didn't deny it. Instead, he said, "You shouldn't have collapsed." I laughed softly. "Right. My mistake. Next time I'll simply defy biology." Something flashed in his eyes. "You were deprived intentionally," he said. "Yes," I agreed. "By you." His jaw clenched. "That won't happen again." He looked like a small child admitting his mistake. The certainty in his voice sent a shiver through me. Not fear. Something worse. Hope. Dangerous, stupid hope. I swallowed hard. "Why?" He didn't answer immediately. His gaze dropped briefly to my shoulder, then snapped away again like he'd been burned. "I don't like variables," he said finally, "and you are... distracting." Oh, that's one way to put it. Before I could respond, raised voices echoed from outside the room. One of the guards was arguing with someone. Another guard, by the sound of it. Orion's expression darkened instantly. He turned sharply and strode toward the door. I didn't see what happened, but I heard it. A sharp thud, a hiss of pain. Then Orion's voice, low, furious, lethal. "I told you to be careful with him." A pause. "I don't care if he's restrained. Use your eyes." Another pause. "If I hear about this again, you won't need medical treatment." Silence. Then footsteps retreating hurriedly. Orion returned, his expression once again smooth and cold, like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just threatened someone over me. Why do I feel a pull towards him? No, he's just cute and stupid. That's all. Definitely not terrifying. Definitely not powerful. Definitely not the kind of man my Omega instincts were inconveniently drawn to. He stopped in front of me. "You will be moved to a different room," he said. "Oh?" I raised a brow. "Upgrading me to first class?" "A bed," he clarified. My heart skipped. I masked it with sarcasm. "Luxury. Do I get a mint on the pillow too?" He ignored that too. "Rest," he added. That word again. Gentler than it should have been. Then, like he remembered himself, his voice hardened. "This changes nothing." I snorted. "Of course not." He hesitated. Just for a second. Then he said quietly, "You shouldn't be hurt for my mistakes." My breath caught. Romantic line detected. From the torturer. I stared at him. He looked uncomfortable. "Good. You say that like it matters," I said softly. "It does," he replied without hesitation. "Oh, that was dangerous." He turned and left before I could respond, door shutting behind him with a solid click. I slumped back against the chair, heart racing, mind spinning. Right. Okay. Let's review. I survived starvation. I got soup. The Mafia boss checked my temperature, threatened his staff for hurting me, and said something alarmingly close to "I care" without actually saying it. Wow. I survived and caused a villain meltdown. I closed my eyes, groaning softly. I told you people fall for me. That is not my fault if I'm cute. Just wait and watch. In some days, he'll dance at my fingertips. Or kill me. Honestly? At this point, either outcome felt equally dramatic. But one thing was clear now. Orion wasn't just my captor anymore. He was confused. And confused alphas were far more dangerous than cruel ones, because cruelty was predictable. This felt like the beginning of something neither of us was ready for. I knew something was wrong the moment Orion stopped showing up, not because I missed him. Absolutely not. I did not miss the Mafia boss who starved me, shoved me into walls, and interrogated me like I was a defective product. No. I simply noticed his absence in the way one notices a storm suddenly disappearing from the horizon. Unnerving, suspicious, and probably temporary. The guards were quieter too, more respectful. One of them even brought me tea. Tea. I stared at the cup like it might explode. "This is poisoned, isn't it?" I asked flatly. The guard blinked. "No?" "Disappointing," I muttered. "At least poison would explain the sudden kindness." He looked uncomfortable and left quickly. Interesting. Very interesting. Hours passed. Then the door opened, not with Orion's controlled stride, but with chaos. Raised voices echoed from down the hall, angry, accusatory. Someone was yelling, someone else was screaming. Then silence, heavy, absolute. Footsteps approached, slow, deliberate. Orion stepped into the room, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked wrecked, not disheveled, not weak, but fractured. His coat was still perfect, his posture rigid, but his eyes were dark, stormy, burning with something that looked dangerously close to self-loathing. He didn't speak immediately. He just stood there, staring at me. I raised a brow. "You look like you just found out your favorite employee was evil." His jaw tightened. Close enough. He turned slightly, raking a hand through his hair, a gesture so human it almost startled me. "They confessed," he said finally. I tilted my head. "Who's they?" "The real traitor." Oh. I leaned back against the bed slowly, a slow smile creeping onto my face. "Oh, look. Consequences. Love that for him. Now I can legally play the victim card." "And?" I prompted. "They were using you as cover," he continued. "Your route, your timing, your presence." I hummed. "So I really was just buying groceries." "Yes!" The word came out sharp, final. He closed his eyes briefly, and in that moment I saw it. Not regret, guilt. The heavy, crushing kind that sat on your chest and refused to move. He spoke again, voice lower now. I reviewed the footage. My smile widened. "Oh, enjoy the part where you starved me?" His eyes snapped open. "Every moment," he said tightly. "Every order, every delay, every—" He stopped. His jaw clenched. "I watched you collapse," he finished hoarsely. I shrugged. "Not my best look." He flinched. Actually flinched. That was weird. "You didn't resist," he said. "You didn't beg. You didn't lie." I shrugged again. "I'm consistent." "You joked," he added quietly. "Well, yes," I said. "If I'm going to be traumatized, I'd like to at least be entertaining." Silence stretched. He took a step closer. The bond tugged sharply in my chest, sudden and painful. I gasped softly despite myself, fingers curling into the blanket. Orion froze. His eyes widened imperceptibly. There, that pull again. Stronger this time. He sucked in a sharp breath and immediately snarled. "No!" The word came out rough, angry, like he was arguing with himself. "Oh? Interesting." He turned away sharply, pacing the room like a caged animal. "No," he repeated. "This isn't possible." I watched him with open fascination. If denial burned calories, he'd be shredded. "No," he muttered again. "You're wrong. This is stress, proximity, residual scent." I cleared my throat. "You're having a full argument with the air." He ignored me completely. "No," he said again, louder. "I would have known." "Oh, honey." "That's not how fate works," I said mildly. "Trust me. I didn't sign up for this either." He spun to face me, eyes blazing. "Do not joke about this." I met his gaze steadily. "Oh, I'm not joking." The bond flared again. Hot, sharp, intimate, like someone tightening an invisible thread between us. Orion staggered half a step, then straightened violently, fury pouring off him. "No," Absolutely not. I crossed my arms. Glad we agree. You don't get a soulmate upgrade after starving me, I continued flatly. That's not how rewards work. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. Good. He deserved at least verbal violence. You think I want this? He snapped. You think I chose you? I blinked. Wow, I said slowly. That was rude in several dimensions. He took a breath, visibly struggling to regain control. I didn't mean... Too late, I cut in. Sentence already committed the crime. Silence fell again. Thick, charged. Then he said the words that changed everything. You're my mate. Just like that. No build-up, no ceremony, no apology, straight to the emotional jugular. I stared at him. Then I laughed. Not a polite chuckle. A full, incredulous laugh that burst out of me before I could stop it. I clutched my stomach, shaking my head. Oh my God, I gasped. No, his expression darkened dangerously. This isn't funny. Oh, it absolutely is, I replied. Sir, you chained me to a chair. This is not how soulmates work. He stepped closer, towering over me. You feel it, he said. Don't deny it. I feel a lot of things, I shot back. Hunger, trauma, mild homicidal urges. The bond pulled again, harder. I hissed, fingers digging into the mattress. He noticed instantly. His gaze softened despite himself. You're hurting, he said quietly. Because of you, I snapped. Because you couldn't tell the difference between a grocery run and a conspiracy. His hands curled into fists at his sides. I will make this right, he said. I snorted. You gonna invent time travel? I'll give you anything, he said fiercely. Protection, power, freedom. I stared at him. You already took my freedom, I said softly. Remember? The words landed hard. He looked wounded. Good. He deserved to sit with that. I don't want your bond, I continued. Not like this, not after that. You don't get to refuse fate, he growled. I leaned forward, eyes flashing. Watch me. The room went very, very still. Then, slowly, Orion lowered himself until he was kneeling in front of me. Kneeling. My breath caught despite myself. I'm sorry, he said. The words were rough, unpolished, clearly unfamiliar. I was wrong, he continued. About you. About everything. My heart stumbled. Damn it. Romantic line detected from a kneeling Mafia alpha. Unacceptable. I don't forgive you, I said immediately. Just so we're clear. I know, he said. I don't trust you. I know. I might bite you. Something flickered in his eyes. Heat. I would deserve it, he said quietly. I stared at him, chest tight. Damn it. Why did he have to say things like that? I can go from being cute to biting you in a second, I warned. His lips curved faintly. Then I'll bleed, he replied. If it means you stay with me. I swallowed hard. Stupid alpha, stupid bond, stupid heart. I looked away, crossing my arms defensively. This doesn't change anything, I muttered. No, he agreed. It changes everything. The bond pulsed between us, steady and unyielding. I hated it. I hated him. And I hated the terrifying, inconvenient truth settling in my chest. Because fate didn't care about cruelty. It didn't care about consent. It didn't care about timing. And apparently, it didn't care that my soulmate was the man who had almost broken me. Which meant one thing. This nightmare wasn't just continuing. It was getting personal. If Orion thought realizing I was his mate would magically fix everything, then congratulations to him. He had officially earned the title of dumbest genius Mafia alpha alive. Because his apology was tragic. Truly, artfully, painfully tragic. It started the next morning, when I was escorted, not dragged, which was progress, into a different room. A better room. Actual bed. Clean sheets, soft lighting, a bathroom with hot water, luxury prison. Orion stood near the window, arms crossed, posture rigid like he was bracing for impact. "I will compensate you," he said without turning around. I blinked. Once, twice. "Compensate me." "Yes." He finally faced me. "Money, protection, status, anything you want." "Ah, here we go. Ah, yes. Emotional repair via bank transfer. Sorry, Mr. Guffey Mafia boss, you can't buy me, the king of sass. Your little worldly things can't impress me." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You think a wire transfer fixes starvation trauma?" His brow furrowed. "It's not just money." "Oh?" I tilted my head. "You throwing in a coupon too?" His jaw tightened. "You'll never struggle again." I laughed. Actually laughed. "That's your apology?" I asked. "Congratulations, you just invented capitalism." He stared at me like he genuinely didn't understand what was wrong with that sentence, which was alarming. "I can give you power," he continued. "Influence. No one will ever touch you again." "You already touched me," I said calmly. The words landed hard. He inhaled sharply, nostrils flaring. "I know what you meant," I cut in. "You mean safety through ownership." Silence. He didn't deny it. "I don't want your power," I said. "And I definitely don't want your money." He looked lost. That was funny. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. I considered him for a moment, then shrugged. "Peace." He frowned. "That's not something I can buy." "Exactly." Scene 1 ended with him standing there like a malfunctioning god. Score, Liam 1, Orion 0. Real care began after that. Clumsily, awkwardly, painfully obvious care that screamed, "I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm trying," which was somehow worse. The guards were gone first. I noticed when I left the room and didn't see anyone lurking like decorative intimidation furniture. "Did you fire them?" I asked casually. "No," Orion replied. "I reassigned them." "For being terrible people?" "For upsetting you." I paused mid-step. Huh. Then came the food. Not thrown at me. Not slid across the floor. Not delivered by silent men who wouldn't meet my eyes. No. Orion brought it himself. A tray. Actual plates. Balanced very carefully in his hands like he was afraid the food might explode. "I didn't poison it," he said stiffly. "I'm touched that you felt the need to clarify," I replied. He set the tray down and, this is important, sat, in a chair, across from me, watching. "Oh," I said slowly. "We're doing dinner dates now?" "This isn't a date," he replied immediately. "Of course not," I said, "because dates usually involve less trauma." He didn't argue. Progress. He is getting attached with me, big scary crybaby. I picked up my fork and took a bite. Warm, good, balanced. Someone had clearly put thought into it. Orion watched my face like it was a medical monitor. I chewed deliberately, swallowed, then looked at him. "You can stop staring," I said. "I promise I'll scream if I start dying." His shoulders eased a fraction. He sat there silently while I ate. Didn't rush me, didn't talk, didn't leave. "Congratulations. You unlocked the basic human decency level." He had no idea what Omegas needed, though. That much was obvious. "You should eat more protein," he said at one point, "and sleep 8 hours." "Oh, wow," I replied. "I feel healed already." He frowned. "That wasn't a joke." "I know. That was the problem." He leaned forward slightly. "Are you cold?" "No." "Too warm?" "No." "Is the bed comfortable?" "Yes." "Is the light—" "Orion," I interrupted gently. "You're hovering." He straightened immediately. "I'm not. You are absolutely hovering. I am ensuring you are hovering." He fell silent. I watched him struggle internally, expression tense like he was fighting the urge to issue orders to the furniture. He looks like he's Googling how to treat mate in his head. When I finished eating, he stood and took the tray without a word. "Thank you," I said before he could leave. He paused, then nodded once. Small, but real. The snapping happened later, because of course it did. Because no amount of soup and silence erased the fact that he had starved me. I found him in the hallway that evening, reviewing something on a tablet, expression sharp and composed. "Do you ever think about it?" I asked suddenly. He looked up. "Think about what?" "The chair," I said. "The light, the hunger." His grip tightened on the tablet. "Yes." "How often?" He didn't hesitate. "Constantly." I laughed softly, humorless. "Good." He flinched. "I didn't scream," I continued. "You ever notice that?" "Yes." "Do you know why?" He shook his head slowly. "Because screaming is for people who believe someone will help them," I said. I didn't. The hallway went very quiet. I stepped closer. "I prefer peace over cheap drama," I continued, voice steady. "But don't confuse my calm with forgiveness." He nodded. "I won't." "You broke me," I said. "Not completely, but enough." His eyes darkened with pain. "I know," he said quietly. "If this were a story," I went on, "you'd be the villain. The tragic one, maybe. But still the villain. I accept that." I studied his face. "But if the hero is you..." I hesitated. "I think I should rethink." He looked up sharply. Hope flared, then he crushed it instantly. "I don't deserve that role," he said. Something about the certainty in his voice made my chest ache. "You could," I said, "if you stopped trying to own me." Silence. Then, he set the tablet down, turned fully toward me, and listened. Didn't interrupt, didn't argue, didn't defend himself. Just listened. "Oh, wow." He shut up. "Is this what growth looks like?" "I can't undo what I did," he said finally, "but I can change what I do next." I stared at him. "I don't trust you," I admitted. "I wouldn't expect you to." "I might leave," I added. "I'll let you." "I might stay," I said quietly. His breath caught. That wasn't subtle. "I won't cage you," he said immediately. "Not again." My heart stuttered. Damn it. Why was honesty so attractive? I don't trust this. He's being quiet. And why does this make him even hotter? I crossed my arms defensively. "You're not forgiven." "I know." "I'm not yours." "I know." "But..." I hesitated. "I don't hate you." His gaze softened dangerously. "That's enough," he said. "For now." I turned to leave, heart pounding, thoughts racing. Behind me, Orion spoke softly. "Liam." I stopped. "You don't belong to me," he said. "But if you ever choose to stand beside me, I will spend my life earning it." I didn't turn around, because if I did, he might see the way my hands were shaking. Stupid hot alpha, stupid bond, stupid heart. But for the first time, his apology wasn't money. It was silence. And somehow, that mattered more than anything he could have bought. I should have known peace wouldn't last. Peace and Mafia bosses don't coexist. They glare at each other from opposite ends of the room, and then someone gets shot. I was halfway down a hallway, alone, because Orion had finally stopped hovering like an anxious satellite, when the air shifted. Not the alpha pressure kind, something sharper, predatory. My instincts screamed before my brain caught up. I turned, and the wall exploded. Concrete shattered outward, dust and debris flying as men poured through the breach, armed and fast, faces hidden, movements practiced. Oh no. This is not a drill. Someone grabbed my arm. I reacted without thinking, twisting hard, elbow slamming back into ribs. He grunted, but another hand closed around my collar, yanking me off balance. "Target secured," someone barked. "Target." Rude. I opened my mouth to scream. The world detonated. The pressure slammed down so hard my knees buckled. Alpha. Not just any alpha. Orion. He moved like a storm-given shape. 1 second he was there, the next he was everywhere. His roar shaking the walls, dominance flooding the space so violently it stole the breath from my lungs. The man holding me screamed as Orion hit him. Not punched. Hit. Like a truck. Bodies flew. Blood sprayed. Orion didn't slow, didn't hesitate, didn't restrain himself. So this is why people fear him. Noted. Slightly impressed. Note to self, never doubt his murder efficiency. Someone fired. Orion turned mid-motion, catching the attacker by the throat and slamming him into the ground hard enough to crack the floor. Another rushed him. Bad choice. Orion tore through them with brutal efficiency, movements precise, deadly, terrifyingly controlled despite the raw fury pouring off him. And the whole time, he was positioning himself between them and me, shielding, protecting. His eyes met mine for half a second across the chaos. And in that look, I saw panic. Not for himself. For me. The fight ended as suddenly as it began. Bodies littered the floor. Groans echoed weakly. The air smelled like blood, smoke, and fear. Orion stood in the center of it all, chest heaving, knuckles red, eyes blazing like he was still deciding whether mercy was an option. Spoiler, it wasn't. He turned to me, crossed the distance in 3 long strides. Hands gripped my shoulders. Hard. Are you hurt? He demanded. I blinked. Once, twice. Hi? I offered. His hands tightened briefly, then loosened immediately, like he realized how close he was to shaking me. Answer me, he said, voice rough. I'm fine, I replied honestly. Mostly just offended. He pulled me against his chest. Just did it. No warning. No asking. One arm locked around me, crushing me against him, his other hand cradling the back of my head. My face pressed into his coat. His heart was racing, fast, violent, uncontrolled. I froze, brain short-circuiting. Oh, this is happening. This is very much happening. He inhaled deeply, burying his face briefly in my hair. You're safe, he said hoarsely. I've got you. Romantic line detected. I have lost the count now. From a blood-soaked Mafia alpha. Unacceptable. My Omega instinct screamed yes, while my brain screamed absolutely not. I cleared my throat. You're bleeding. He glanced down at himself dismissively. Not mine. Comforting. Guards flooded in moments later, weapons raised, eyes wide at the destruction. Orion straightened, all softness vanishing in an instant. Secure the perimeter, he snapped. Anyone involved in this dies. A collective shudder rippled through the room. No one argued. He turned back to me. And then, he did something insane. He raised his voice, so everyone could hear. So this doesn't happen again, Orion said coldly. Understand this clearly. The entire space went silent. Every eye locked onto him. Liam is under my protection. The words hit like a bomb. The underworld froze, literally froze. Weapons lowered, breaths held, people stared. Someone dropped a gun. I stared at him. I wanted safety, not a press conference. Any who threaten him, Orion continued, dominance rolling off him in suffocating waves, threaten me. Silence. Then, everyone bowed, deep, immediate, absolute. My stomach dropped. Oh no, oh no, no, no. This was not a small thing. This wasn't a quiet protection order. This was a claim, whether he said the word or not. Orion looked down at me, eyes burning. I won't let them touch you again, he said softly. Romantic line number 2. I swallowed, then snapped out of it. Orion, I hissed under my breath. What did you just do? He frowned. I protected you. You announced me, I said. To everyone. Yes. That was not subtle. I don't do subtle. I pinched the bridge of my nose. I noticed. The confrontation happened later, after the chaos was cleaned. After I was checked over by a medic who kept giving Orion looks like, "Wow, you're intense," after we were finally alone. I closed the door to the private room behind us. Slowly, deliberately. Orion turned to face me. I crossed my arms. "Explain," I said. I stopped a threat. "You made me a target," I snapped. "Do you have any idea what you just did to my life?" He didn't flinch. "Yes," he said. "I made you untouchable. You made me visible." Silence. He inhaled, exhaled. Then, he bowed his head. Actually bowed. "I didn't ask," he said quietly. "I should have." My anger faltered, just a little, seeing his face like an adorable, guilty puppy. "I didn't think," he continued. "I saw you in danger and went full alpha," I finished. "Yes, I noticed. I was afraid," he admitted. That stopped me cold. "You?" I asked softly. "Yes." He looked up, eyes dark and honest. "Losing you terrifies me." "Oh, that was unfair. Wait, a real apology? In this economy? Oh wow, growth arc unlocked." "You could have asked," I said. "I know." "You could have trusted me to decide." "I know." "You don't get to decide my safety for me." "I know," he said again. "And I'm sorry." No justification. No defense. Just, sorry. I stared at him, chest tight. "I won't do it again," he added. "Not without your consent." I searched his face for arrogance, for dominance, for control, found none, only fear and resolve. "I don't belong to you," I said quietly. "I know," he replied. "But I belong to you, if you want me to." My heart stuttered. That was definitely a romantic line. "You're dangerous," I muttered. "Yes." "And reckless." "Yes." "And exhausting." His lips twitched faintly. "Also, yes." I sighed, rubbing my face. "I don't forgive you yet. I won't ask you to. I might still leave. I'll survive. I might stay," I added. His breath caught. I turned away before he could see my expression. Oh God, I feel so happy teasing his Mafia boss. "Next time," I said firmly, "you talk to me. No declarations, no intimidation speeches." He nodded immediately. "Agreed." "And no hugging me in front of armed men." He paused. "I can try." I snorted despite myself. God, this man was impossible. But as I lay awake that night, heart still racing, one truth settled heavily in my chest. Orion hadn't protected me because I was weak. He'd protected me because the thought of losing me made him lose control. And that was far more terrifying than any enemy could ever be. Because the underworld now knew my name. And worse, they knew I mattered to him. Which meant the real war had only just begun. Orion didn't cage me. That alone should have scared me more than anything else he'd ever done. He stood by the window, back to me, hands folded behind him like a man preparing to face a firing squad instead of an Omega with unresolved feelings and an excellent biting instinct. "You can leave," he said. Just like that. No guards blocking the door, no threats laced into the air, no alpha pressure pressing down on my spine. The door was open. Literally. I stared at it, then at him, then back at the door. Suspicious. He's being respectful. "I won't stop you," he continued, voice steady but low. "I won't follow. I won't claim you. I won't interfere." I blinked. Once, twice. "This feels like a trap," I said. "You're going to jump out and yell surprise dominance the second I step forward, aren't you?" He huffed. Actually huffed. "No," he said. "This is me choosing you over my instincts." Oh, that was unfair. He finally turned to face me. There was no armor in his expression now, no alpha intimidation. Just a man standing barehanded in front of someone who could absolutely destroy him with a single word. You deserve a choice, he said. Not obligation, not fate, not fear. My throat tightened. I don't know how to be anything but what I am, he added, but I can promise you this. If you stay, it will be because you want to, and if you leave, I will let you go. The bond hummed quietly between us, not pulling, not demanding, waiting. I crossed my arms, mostly so he wouldn't see my hands shaking. You're serious? Yes. No dramatic speeches? No. No, the world will eat you alive without me? No. No ominous threats whispered in a sexy voice? A corner of his mouth twitched. Tempting, but no. I exhaled slowly. God, why was he like this now? Why did he wait until now to become emotionally competent? I walked toward the door. Each step felt heavier than the last. I stopped with my hand hovering inches from the handle, remembering all past memories. For whom I am leaving, no is waiting for me. But here, Orion. Nobody knows about future. At least I should choose my happiness today. Silence filled the room. Orion didn't move, didn't speak, didn't pressure. I turned back to him. You don't get to own me, I said. I know. You don't get to decide things for me. I know. I don't belong to you. His gaze softened. No, he said. You don't. I am yours. I swallowed. But, I continued, voice quieter now, I'll stay. His breath caught audibly. But, I added quickly, we're doing this my way. He straightened immediately. Name your terms. I held up a finger. Rule 1. No claiming language in public unless I say so. Agreed. Rule 2. No decisions about my safety without consulting me first. Agreed. Rule 3. No touching without permission. He nodded without hesitation. Rule 4, I continued. If you ever starve me again, I bite. A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. Fair. I lowered my hand. Okay, I said. Now you can breathe. He did, like he'd been holding it the entire time. Look at that. The terrifying Mafia boss learned communication. I hate that I trust him now. The bond warmed, not blazing, not consuming, comfortable, chosen. Orion took a step toward me, then stopped himself. May I? He asked softly. I raised a brow. May you? Kiss you. Oh. Oh no. This man was asking. Asking. Permission. I felt my knees threaten mutiny. You ask very politely for someone who once declared war on the underworld for me, I muttered. Different situation, he replied. I studied his face. The restraint there. The want. The fear of crossing a line. Yes, I said. Just once. Yes. He moved slowly, like I might disappear if he startled me. One hand lifted, stopped, waited. I nodded. His fingers brushed my waist, light as a promise, sending a shock straight through my spine. Oh. Butterflies. So many butterflies. His touch traced the curve of my waist, warm and grounding, not claiming, anchoring. I leaned in before I could overthink it. Our lips met, soft, careful, like he was memorizing the feeling rather than taking it. My heart slammed against my ribs. The bond surged, warm and alive, a wave rolling through me, not overwhelming, not consuming, just right. His hand slid a little lower, resting at my hip, thumb brushing back and forth in a slow, absent-minded motion that made my breath stutter. It felt like 1,000 tiny sparks dancing under my skin, like butterflies turning into something deeper, safer. I tangled my fingers in his coat, grounding myself. The kiss deepened, still gentle, still controlled, but undeniably heated, the kind that made my thoughts go fuzzy around the edges. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing harder. Orion rested his forehead against mine. You're choosing me, he murmured. I'm choosing us, I corrected. Big difference. His hand squeezed my waist slightly, reverent. I won't waste it, he said. Good, I replied, because I'm very expensive emotionally. He smiled, a real one this time. The epilogue didn't look like fireworks. It looked like paperwork, and meetings, and me sitting beside Orion at a long table, surrounded by people who were absolutely terrified of him and deeply confused by me. I had a desk now, a role, a voice. Turns out being sarcastic and observant made me excellent at reading people and calling out lies. Who knew? Orion listened, actually listened, which was still shocking. I leaned back in my chair during one particularly tedious meeting, watching him shut down an arrogant underboss with nothing but a raised brow. Still scary, still annoying, unfortunately, still mine. I glanced at him. He glanced back. One eyebrow lifted in silent question. I smirked. Later, I mouthed. A hint of heat flashed in his eyes. The meeting ended early. Coincidence? Absolutely not. Life wasn't perfect. The bond still hummed. The world was still dangerous. But I wasn't trapped. I was chosen, and I chose back. Which made all the difference, because being someone's mine wasn't the problem. Being someone's choice was everything.